And good afternoon, producer Susan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jersey Joe. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. You make it through the new year okay?
Yeah, it was a nice 2 weeks off from work.
Well, good for you. I guess that's what
Monday
you.
was rough.
Yeah, well, it's really tough when you're working for get a 2 week break from work and then you got to show up and you got to
Yeah.
remember where's the key to my office or where's the pass key to my office and
Or the password to my computer.
password to your computer. Yeah, it can be rough. Anyway, well, today is January 6th. It is our first show of 2026. And of course, a lot has gone on, particularly this past weekend with the capture of Maduro. So we can't, I
Yeah.
realize it's been all over the news, but we're going to talk about some things. We call this the news in perspective you won't hear on TV. So we're going to talk about a couple of things you probably haven't heard on the news about what went on. So we have a quote of our week is from actually Secretary of State Marco Rubio explaining why the United States went into Caracas to capture Maduro. Um, Later on, we have a runner-up to stupidest thing I've heard all week. Um, we'll tell you who is protesting the capture and extradition of Maduro. But in our stupidest thing I've heard all week segment, we'll tell you about a class action lawsuit being brought against McDonald's over the name of one of their favorite menu items. We'll tell you about that one. We also have another Venezuela related thing. We have a clip of a law professor from New Haven explaining why the capture of Maduro was perfectly legal and why congressional approval wasn't required. Um, Going on to this fraud, not all this child care and SNAP fraud is taking place in Minnesota. Some is taking place in other states like Washington State. And we have this guy explaining how people in Washington State are getting 20,000 a month or more just by watching their neighbor's three kids a couple hours a day. Wouldn't you, if you could make 20,000 a week, excuse me,
A
20,000 a
week?
month
Absolutely.
by watching three kids 6 hours a day. That's $240,000 a year, by the way.
Yeah, sign me up. Where can I sign
So,
up?
well, we'll play. This guy explains how the scam is being done. Um, we're going to go back to election fraud, back to 2020. Last week we played a little clip of how 300 over 300,000 votes in Georgia were counted without being certified, and now we have a congressional hearing that talked about some voter fraud that took place in Nevada. But they only discovered it after the results were finalized. And some of those numbers might stun you. We're going to tell you how many humanoid robots Hyundai plans on producing in just 3 years by 2028, and
This I saw in the news. That was interesting.
what type of tasks those robots will be doing. And finally, a brand new taxpayer relief shot this week is from Lawrenceville, Kansas, where an armed, not a cop, but a city hall employee who is not a police officer shoots and kills a violent intruder. That's kind of new one for the books. So anyway, from City Hall, he was allowed to carry a gun. We'll tell you what that happened. Anyway, we're going to try to squeeze it all in. So here we go. So here's Marco Rubio explaining why we went into Venezuela to capture Nicholas Maduro. Number one, he starts off by saying Maduro is not the president of Venezuela, and his regime is not the legitimate government. Maduro is the head of the Cartel de los Soles, a narco-terror organization which has taken possession of a country, and he is under indictment for pushing drugs into the United States. Very important point. After he disregarded the results of the election in 2024, that he lost by a 2-to-1 margin, by the way, that's documented. The United States and 50 other, all of Europe, 50 other countries said, we do not recognize Maduro as the president. He is not the legitimate president. So he had no, he says, well, you can't just go in and grab a kidnap a president. He was not the legitimate president. He was basically a narco terrorist saying, screw the election. I'm remaining in control. So he was not recognized either by this country or 50 other, all of Europe and 50 other major countries around the world as the
So who was
legitimate
the
president.
president of Venezuela?
The guy who lost, I forget his name.
Hugo Chavez?
No, Chavez died 15 years ago. Maduro succeeded Chavez.
Oh, Rodriguez.
No,
Delcy Rodriguez?
she's his vice president.
Okay.
I mean, I can just Google his name. The winner of the 2020 Venezuela. Here, you want me to Google it for you? Or you
I
want
got
to?
it up.
Yeah, the winner of the 2020 Venezuela election.
That was 2020.
2024 rather. 2024.
I was gonna say, Oh, Edmundo Gonzalez Urita?
Yeah, well, yeah, he won the election to the
Yeah,
landslide.
won overwhelmingly according to independent polls, leading many countries, including the US, to not recognize Maduro's claim.
Right. So it's not like we went in to kidnap Putin or Macron in France. This guy was not recognized as the sovereign leader. He had, to have sovereign immunity, you have to be the legitimate leader of a country. He was not
Yeah,
the
he won
legitimate
with
leader.
over two-thirds of the votes, but
Right.
Maduro refused to cede power.
Exactly. So he was not the legitimate president, even though he declared himself to be the president. He was not recognized as the president. He was a criminal masquerading, as with a self-appointed title, but he had no sovereign immunity because he wasn't a legitimate president. So again, let me read Rubio one more time. Maduro is not the president of Venezuela, and his regime is not his regime is not the legitimate government. Maduro is the head of the Cartel de los Soles, a narco-terror organization which has taken possession of a country. He is under indictment for pushing drugs in the United States. And by the way, this is not just a Trump thing. Before, there had always been a bounty on Maduro's head. Just before he left office in January of 2025, Biden raised the bounty, not Trump. Biden raised the bounty for the capture of Maduro from 15 million to 25 million dollars. So even Biden had put a bounty on Maduro's head. So this is not just a Trump thing. Did you know that, by the
So
way?
now that I didn't know that, but now that Maduro is in our custody, who is leading Venezuela?
Well, they swore in his vice president, a woman. I think her name is D. Rodriguez or something.
Okay.
They swore her in as president, but under the Venezuelan constitution, there has to be an election within like 60 days. So no doubt she's going to get her butt thrown out, and they'll probably bring in the guy whose name that you couldn't pronounce. He'll probably win.
Edmundo Gonzalez, it's Urrutia.
Yeah, he'll probably get elected again, only this time he'll be allowed to serve. Okay. So that's what's going to happen. So she's going to be, if you will, the interim president. I think that's better for optics than saying, well, we're gonna just, he's following the rules of succession per the Venezuelan constitution. And I think it's a better optic than saying, well, we're just going to throw you out and we're going to unilaterally decide to bring this guy in. No, he's going to let the people decide. All
I
right.
mean, Venezuela is it just in general. I mean, their economy is in the toilet. It's a mess.
Right. Well, yeah. We've talked in the
Venezuelan
past.
money is cheaper than toilet paper.
Yep. By the way, 10 years ago, the Venezuelan bolivar was worth just about one US dollar. The last time I checked, it was worth 1/10 of one US penny. That's how far it had fallen. Basically become worthless. So, all right. So now here's another perspective. But you go, well, he had to get congressional approval. Bull crap. He did not have to get congressional approval. The War Powers Act says the president is free to take military action as needed, but he must advise Congress within 48 hours, of that action taken. And if he wants to keep troops on the ground for more than 60 days, he needs congressional approval. The War Powers Act does not, and I repeat, does not require prior congressional approval. So anybody says he needed to get congressional approval has no clue what they're talking about. Just look up the War Powers Act. But here's an expert, by the way. He teaches constitutional law, and I think he's from Yale, if I'm not mistaken. But here's an interview with this guy, and let me play just a portion of the interview.
Congressional Democrats, as our viewers just heard, beg to differ. I wonder who's correct in your view.
So this was a law enforcement act that was conducted by and with the assistance of the U.S. military.
By the way, that's important. This was not a military. This was led by the DEA, Department of Drug Enforcement Agency, with the assistance of the military. The DEA is the people who arrested Maduro, and there's been an indictment outstanding against Maduro since 2020. So this was a law enforcement action. This was not a military invasion.
Maduro, an illegitimate president there of Venezuela, ignored their election results and instead continued in power. And he had been indicted here in the United States for his conspiracy to run drugs into the United States. And consequently, the United States, President Trump had offered him an off-ramp on several occasions, but we built up forces there in the area over the last couple of months. And when he refused to depart the country, the United States has taken action to bring him to the United States and stand trial here along with his wife. This is, like I said, a law enforcement operation in that he was arrested based upon an indictment in the Southern District of New York, and that's where he's going to be presented Monday morning.
So in your view, sir, does that mean it did not require congressional approval because it was a law enforcement act?
Absolutely. This was not an act of war. This was a law enforcement act that resulted in a person who had been indicted in the United States, captured and brought to the United States.
I've heard a lot of.
So we're gonna end it there. But again, it was not an act of war. We didn't sink any ships. We didn't destroy any of their aircraft, which we could have, by the way. They had naval vessels, docked in the harbor. There was an air base, just outside of Caracas that we could have, bombed and strafed. We didn't attack the country. We went after an individual.
Mhm.
So it was a law enforcement operation. It was not a military invasion. And this guy's a professor of constitutional law, so I think he's pretty clear. Do you have any questions after you hear him explain what happened?
No, not at all. But I
So,
think it's interesting how the media twists things.
yeah.
And then of course, then the public just like eats it all up.
Right. Now, when the Democrats say, well, he never got congressional approval, well, that's true on his face, but they forget to tell you he didn't need congressional approval. By the way, Obama sent cruise missiles into Syria. I forget who Biden bombed. When the president wants to do one of these sudden attacks, you don't tell Congress because then the enemy knows it's coming. I don't know if you remember, but Obama did send cruise missiles into Syria, and nobody has. And the War Powers Act does not require a president to get advanced congressional approval for any military action, just to notify them within 48 hours after it's happened. And if you want to keep troops on the ground for more than 60 days, you need the approval of Congress. So anyway, nothing like that took place. It was a law enforcement action to capture a wanted criminal. All right. Stupidest thing we heard a week. Have you heard about the lawsuit against McDonald's?
No.
You
Who's suing
haven't?
them now? Is this another hot coffee?
Almost. By the way, so let me play the news clip. It's a bunch of lawyers who have brought a class action lawsuit against McDonald's, and you'll never guess what they're suing over.
McDonald's has been hit with a class lawsuit over the sandwich. The complaint argues that the fast food chain is misleading its customers by saying the sandwich contains real pork rib meat. The McRib allegedly is made up of reconstructed pork, including shoulder, heart, and tripe. All right. A spokesperson from McDonald's told The Independent that the McRib doesn't use any of those ingredients. The item was first introduced back in 1982 and has been on and off the menu over the years. I've had one.
Thanks.
The
For-
Presbyterian had one.
Long time
Thanks for yucking our yum,
Yeah.
because
They're good.
I thought highly of the McRibbons.
Yeah. Did you ever think that the McRib sandwich was made out of real spare ribs?
No, I make, I eat ribs a lot. When they go on sale, I always stock up on them in my freezer. Yeah, a good piece of rib meat is, you're
Right.
talking $25 for a rack
Right.
and that's on sale.
Right. So it's just like, chicken, they talk about recon. So yes, chicken McNuggets, they take, ground chicken scraps and press them into a nugget and you get a chicken. Well, the same thing with the McRib. They take shredded pork, if you will, and form it into a rib. But nobody ever pretended. They never said this is real rib. That's why they call it a McRib. So, how stupid is that? Suing McDonald's, like who's ever had a McRib sandwich that really thought it was actual pork ribs?
I don't understand this infatuation with the McRib sandwich because I don't think it's that good.
No, it's seasonal.
Have you ever had one? It's not when if I'm going to go to McDonald's, I'm still going to get a hamburger over anything else.
I tried one once, But there are people, they actually have, and they have websites. Oh, there's so and so read this one on this street on this town has it. People flock to it because it's an optional menu that not every year the franchisees are not obligated to
Yeah.
serve it. But God, people go crazy out of it. There's even a website, a Facebook page for McRib lovers. So that was that. I mean, I think that qualifies for the stupidest thing I've heard all
Oh
week.
yeah.
A
Yeah.
lawsuit. All right. But here's our runner-up, and I will play. I've got a clip. It's too long. So right after was captured and brought to the United States, all sorts of protesters popped up about free Maduro, this and that, get us out of Venezuela. If you look at have you seen any of the pro-Maduro protests?
Oh yeah. I don't understand this between this and Luigi Mangione.
Right.
Us as American, like bottom line, this man is a criminal. He's a drug dealer.
But what have you looked at did you see a single Venezuelan in the crowd?
No.
Not one. They were all
No,
white.
they're all Americans. I just
White
don't
liberals.
understand Americans' infatuation with wanting to protect these criminals.
Right. Meanwhile, I watch one of because I get all the New York news stations over here because I'm in New Jersey. So they're showing this, big, free Maduro, get out of Venezuela. Meanwhile, 4 blocks over, and there were maybe 150 people there with their signs. 4 blocks over, there's 3,000 Venezuelan cheering the arrest of Maduro. So that's why there were no Venezuelans in the crowd. It was 150 white liberals, protesting Maduro's capture, and all the Venezuelans were 4 blocks away, cheering and celebrating his capture. Have you seen some, particularly down in
I just don't
Florida?
understand why we put these blatant criminals on pedestals.
Well, I've got a longer clip, and maybe I'll leave it in the notes if you want to post it. There's a longer clip of a woman telling you where the money comes from. The same group that funded the pro-Palestinian movement the day. Remember October 7th when they raided Israel and killed 1,700 Israeli civilians, and with days
Yeah.
you had
Yeah.
pro-Palestinian protests. It turns out the same group that was funding. And not only funding them, flying them around, putting them up in hotels, taking them from city to city to organize the pro-Palestinian. It's the same group that funded those protests to the tune of millions of dollars is funding the pro-Maduro protests. So you got to ask yourself, what is their agenda? All right. Anyway, you want to hear them make $20,000 a month watching your neighbor's 3 kids?
Yeah, sign me up.
All right. Now, this is not from Minnesota, although I have no doubt it's going on in Minnesota. But here's a guy explaining, and he starts off with a TV thing where there's a woman, documenting where she just visited this, quote, daycare center. And then he's commenting on what she found. So here we go. This is from Washington State.
Washington, instead of looking at a daycare center that's in the middle of a strip mall or somewhere else, this guy is going to the home-based daycare centers.
Okay, so we just visited Dagosh Family Childcare. This address was confirmed online. They get $23,260.
$23,260 a month, and she's pulled up outside of somebody's house, which is the address for the daycare center.
There's in October.
They have made $210,000 just this year.
And how many kids again is this place registered for?
Oh, that's the fun part. 3.
3 kids.
So this place are licensed for 9.
Let me give you the scam that can work on this one. You and I are friends. You got a 5-year-old, you got a 3-year-old, and you got an infant. I say, okay, I'm going to go register a business. I'm going to be a daycare center. Okay, fine. All right. You and I are best friends anyway. You're coming over every single day with the kids. You're playing with my kids. It's all good. So I go and I register to be a daycare center. And now I'm going to wind up getting $13,000 a month for watching your kids. 13, 26, and it's going to go into $30,000. You may have to pay a little bit towards it because most of it's going to be subsidized. So we wound up getting, let's say, $30,000 a month, or we'll even lower it, $20,000. We're going to get $20,000 a month for your 3 kids. You're going to come over with the kids every single day. In case we get hit with an inspection, so be it, right? Or on the day that we get hit with an inspection and you're not there, of course, the kids were sick. And then when they call you, you're going to do it no problem. So now you're bringing your kids over. I'm getting a check every month for 20 grand. I'm giving you $10,000 and you and I are wind up pulling in $120,000 a year just because I've got your 3 kids. Now, if I'm going to get approved for 9 kids, like you saw here in the state of Washington, and I'm pulling in $400,000, $500,000 a year, I'm giving half of it to my friends who are getting paid for doing nothing, and then I'm sitting here collecting the rest of it. And you wonder why the restaurants are all busy? You wonder why everybody's out there gallivanting? Because they're stealing from our government, which means they're stealing from you. And that's why there are calls all over the internet right now for there to be, everybody say, screw you, I'm not paying my taxes this year.
By the way, this is a guy. He's got a YouTube channel, Dennis Michael Lynch. But I've checked this out. He's 100% correct. They were getting, even though they were licensed to watch up till 9 to have up to 9 kids. They were only doing 3, and they were getting $23,000 a month for watching 3, providing daycare services to 3 kids. Is that incredible?
That is incredible. Sign me up.
Sign you up. Yeah, I mean that's $250,000 a year for watching 3 kids 6 hours a day. I mean, and you never have to get. You can do that in your pajamas. You don't have to get in your car. You don't have to drive to work. You know, you don't have to do anything. You do it in your pajamas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh my God. So anyway, so that's what's going on. So it's not just Minnesota. All right, moving on. Voter fraud. Remember last week or 2 weeks ago, we talked about the 300,000 votes in Georgia that were counted. By the way, in the 2020 election, Biden only won Georgia by 11,000 votes. Then it turns out there were over 300,000 votes that got counted that were never certified. So clearly, he might not have won Georgia had those votes been disallowed. And that was just in one county. Well, it wasn't just Georgia. Here's congressional testimony about what happened in Nevada. And again, they only found this out after the election, and it was too late after the results were certified. So here's what happened in Nevada after what they discovered after the fact. Congressional hearing.
2,000 people in Nevada voted more than once, according to your work in this. 42,000 people.
42,000 people in one state voted more than once. I want to make sure you heard. I'm going to start that over. Is that incredible? Here we go.
1,000 people in Nevada voted more than once, according to your work in this. 42,000 people. 1,500 people voted in Nevada that were dead. 19,000 people voted though they did not live in Nevada and they weren't a college student. 8,000 people voted from a non-existent address. 15,000 people voted though they were registered to a commercial address or a vacant address, and 4,000 people voted in Nevada that are non-citizens. My question to you is, in my state, when someone votes twice, and we do have that occasionally, about 50 times a year that actually occurs in our state, we prosecute individuals that vote twice. Of this 130,000 instances that you have identified from the 2020 election in Nevada, do you know of any prosecutions currently going on in Nevada for any voter fraud?
Not yet, Senator, and that's extremely important. These laws have to be enforced. We, of course, I represent the Trump campaign and the campaign's electors. I don't represent the government. We can't bring prosecutions. But if we are going to enforce voter integrity laws, they must be enforced. And we are confident that although it often takes a long time to put together a fraud case, although it takes prosecutors months, sometimes even years, to go through subpoenas and warrants and using the FBI to go investigate these things, once a good hard look at these cases is examined, an honest look, if we do that, there should be charges brought, because the ranking member brought up in his remarks that when you lose the principle of one person, one vote, the end result is authoritarian.
And let me just recap. 42,000 people voted more than once. 1,500 dead people voted. 19,000 people who were not residents of Nevada voted in Nevada. 15,000 listed their domicile as a commercial building. 8,000 people listed their residence as from addresses that didn't exist, and 4,000 undocumented illegal aliens voted in the presidential election. 120,000 people voted in that election either more than once or were not eligible to vote. Isn't that stunning?
Yeah, and you can't vote unless you're a citizen.
Right. So, and you can't vote if you're dead.
Yeah. And you can't vote twice.
And you can't vote twice. Well, you can, but you're not allowed to. But again, if you think voter fraud
You can't vote if you're in jail, is that correct?
That's correct. You can't if you're a felon. Now, if you're in for a misdemeanor, like you get arrested for drunk driving, yes, you can fill out an absentee ballot. Particularly if you're already signed up to vote for mail, like I'm signed up for vote by mail, and if I get thrown in for drunk driving or something, for drunk and disorderly, and I haven't been convicted of a felony. Yes, there's a difference between jail and prison. Yes, I can vote. I can fill out my absentee ballot if I'm in jail overnight or for 2 nights. So that's just a
So if you can't vote if you're in jail on a felony, but if
in prison.
If you are released, though, can you vote if you have a felony record?
And some states have modified that. Yes, that if you have been served your sentence and you're no longer on probation, yes, you can vote. You can vote. Some states have corrected that, but only after you've been released. So, all right. How much time we got left?
You got about 10 minutes.
All right. Well, we don't have to rush to finish. All right. Hyundai, think of a car maker. Now, by the way, as a little background, as of 2025, last year, there were approximately 380,000 robots working in U.S. factories, but the vast majority of those were stationary in nature. I mean, bolted to the floor. You've seen these videos of these robots, like, welding cars, right, and putting on windshields. You've seen these, right?
Yeah.
But they do the same thing over and over and over, and they're bolted to the floor. The car chassis comes to them, and then the conveyor stops, at a very specific point, and then like the arms come down and it starts doing tack weld, tack weld, tack weld, or it puts a windshield on. It's very, very repetitive, and the robots are not mobile. Well, Hyundai is already producing, and they're gearing up to produce 30,000 humanoid robots per year by 2028, which is just 3 years out. And the difference is these humanoid robots can walk. You can tell the humanoid robot, I need this batch of bolts from this shelf, in the warehouse, and the humanoid robot will go get it and walk it back to you. And so, by the way, so if you have a job, that consists of just kind of, fetch and retrieve type work, you want to start looking for a new career, because fetch and retrieve type jobs, or anything that can be automated, move something from A to B. They already have these things, by the way, where they're taking parcels off a conveyor belt. They read the barcode or the QR code, and they pick it up and they turn around and they walk it and put it on a pallet or a hand truck, because they read the barcode. Oh, this goes on this hand truck here. So if you have a job that consists of basically fetch and retrieve or moving material from A to B, in a couple of years, a robot's probably going to do your work for you. Now, if you think ahead, and they're going to be cranking out 30,000 humanoid robots per year, what sort of career choice do you think you want to go into?
Not manufacturing.
But how about robotics, programming robots?
Programming, the AI field. I think it's in New Jersey. Is it Keene College or Kane? Is it Keene?
Keene,
right?
College. Keene College.
They are, I believe, the first university in the United States to offer a bachelor's of science degree in AI.
Right. And also robot maintenance. Even the stationary robots require a lot of maintenance. So, there's testing, there's replacing worn parts and whatnot. And that's one thing that other robots can't do. I mean, you have to be able to look at a hose and say, this hose is worn, I need to replace it. And you got to get 2 wrenches. You have to undo the couplings on both ends, and you got to pick the right hose, and then, so I'm not saying impossible for a robot to do that, but it's going to be many, many years before a robot can replace a good maintenance tech. So folks, programming your AI, programming robots, software, robotic maintenance, those are going to be some key fields to get into. So, and I can't wait to see how they're going to deploy 30,000, and this is just one company. Hyundai is not alone. By the way, Hyundai not only makes Hyundai, they make Kia, they make Genesis, they make a bunch of other stuff. but Hyundai has decided they're going to get into humanoid robots in a big way. So can't see.
And for those of you who are wondering which Asian country they're from, they are
Korea,
from
South Korea.
well, specifically South Korea, because we've talked many times about the differences between South Korea and North Korea.
Yep. At night, you can sort that from the satellites. South Korea is lit up like a Christmas tree, and North Korea is dark at night.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they are a very prominent South Korean, very successful South Korean company.
yep, absolutely. All right. How much time we got for us taxpayer relief?
You got 5 minutes.
All right, here we go. We have a quick intro for taxpayer relief shot for the first of the year. Here we go. Santa Rosa County, Florida. Here we go.
Somebody's breaking in your house, you're more than welcome to shoot them in Santa Rosa County. We prefer that you do, actually. Hopefully, you'll save the taxpayers money.
All right, and this one comes to us from Lawrenceville, Kansas, and I didn't think this would be possible, but this guy breaks into City Hall right after it opened and encounters a good guy with a gun, and here's how this one worked out.
The latest on breaking news, Lawrence City Hall is closed as police investigate a deadly shooting on the building's fourth floor.
Police say a man was shot after a fight with city employees. KMBC9's Eric Graves is live from Lawrence tonight. And Eric, this happened right around when the building opened today.
Hey, Bria, Chris, the folks driving by right now in a busy rush hour in Massachusetts and 6th here in downtown Lawrence can't tell that Lawrence City Hall is a crime scene right now, but that is exactly what it is. Police tell us that around 8 a.m. this morning, a suspect forced his way in through a back door of the City Hall. He then made his way up to the fourth floor, where police say the suspect broke a window on a door of the stairwell there. That's where city employees found this suspect. They say city employees tried to get him to leave. Then there was a fight between the employees and the suspect. One of the city employees who was armed, trained, and authorized to use a gun in City Hall shot and killed that suspect. Police tell us they don't know much about him right now. He is 28 years old. He is not from Lawrence. He is from out of state. Multiple people have been coming by here today to still try and get into City Hall and do normal business. And as we've talked to them, they are shocked to find out what happened in here today.
It's not something that you would hear in local news for Lawrence at all. So this is walking up in here and he's coming for a normal Monday to pay off some fees and fines, and having this news happen is very devastating.
The Lawrence City Commission is still on for tomorrow night, but everything else happening in City Hall, including municipal court on the first floor, is off until Thursday when this building will reopen. Coming up at 6, you'll hear more from the Lawrence Chief of Police.
By the way, the interesting words that the employee was trained and authorized to have a gun. And typically, and why this is surprising, normally in City Hall, and they also have municipal court, normally I've never been near a municipal building. There's always signs, no guns allowed, gun-free zone.
Right.
Have you ever seen a municipal City Hall that didn't have
it's even my doctor's office, there's big signs on the windows that says, gun-free zone, no guns allowed.
Well, good for
the post office. I think the post office, you're not allowed to have a gun.
That's correct too. So good for Lawrence, Kansas, for allowing this guy trained and authorized. And maybe, too bad. Of course, we already have schools. There are 12 states now that allow volunteer teachers and staff to go through special training and become, school security officers. And maybe someday will come where more municipal buildings will allow, trained and authorized employees to carry guns, because who knows if he saves somebody's life. But,
and there's many schools that have resource officers in them. If that's better than not having anything. So.
Yeah, but I'd rather have, I'd rather have 3 or 4 staff members than one guy. So, all right.
Yeah.
Hey, anything you want to add before we wrap up?
Nope. It's our first show of the new year.
All right. And we finished on time. All right. So I want to thank everybody who listened to this podcast for giving up 30 minutes out of your busy day to listen to me ramble on about the things that I find of interest and importance. And I hope you found those topics as interesting and important as I did. And if so, hope you continue to listen in the weeks and months to come. If you want to see some of the materials and story links you heard me talk about today, you'll be able to find them on the Jerzee Joe website at jerzeejoe.com, with Jersey being spelled J-E-R as in Robert, Z as in zebra, E-E, jerzeejoe.com. Just give producer Susan a day or two to get that stuff up on the website. Alternatively, if you want to email me with a comment, question, suggested show topic, or if you'd like me to send you one of those story links, just send me an email directly to joe@jerzeejoe.com, and I'll be happy to send you either any of the story links that you're interested in, or if you want me to put you on our distribution list so you don't have to go hunt for the podcast, I can put it right in your inbox once a week. Again, Joe at JerzeeJoe.com. Just remember to spell Jersey with an R, a Z, and two E's. And with that, Producer Susan, anything you want to add before we sign off?
Yeah, one of the other interesting things today, so today is January 6th. So today is the Epiphany. People don't realize that the 12 days of Christmas is not just a song. The 12 days of Christmas is actually the 12 days of Christmas, which the 12th day was yesterday.
Yesterday.
And today is the Epiphany.
Epiphany. Well, very good. Well, thank you for that bit of trivia. All right, Producer Susan, thank you for your help, and I'll talk to you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.